The market was alive with noise and color, a symphony of life that seemed to swirl around Kofi, yet never reached him. Merchants shouted their prices with booming voices, the air thick with the scent of roasted maize and fresh spices. Children ran barefoot between stalls, their laughter ringing like tiny bells. And in the middle of it all, Kofi stood alone, a small figure beside a cracked wooden stall, clutching a faded cloth bag that once belonged to his mother. His clothes were worn, his feet dusty, and his heart heavy with a loneliness that no market crowd could drown. He had arrived early that morning, clutching the last coins his mother had left him. All he wanted was a loaf of bread, simple sustenance, yet every approach to a merchant ended in rejection. "Go away, boy," one shouted, waving him off. "Not today, little one," another said, his eyes cold. Kofi bowed his head, cheeks burning with shame, the tight knot of hunger in his stomach twisting sharper with every step. He wandered through the alleys between the stalls, the crowd pressing past him, invisible in its vibrant rush. A small dog appeared at his feet, thin and trembling, sniffing cautiously. Kofi knelt, carefully removing a small piece of bread from his bag and offering it to the animal. The dog wagged its tail, eyes bright with trust. Kofi smiled faintly, a spark of warmth in the icy morning. "Here," he whispered. "Eat." The dog's tiny teeth nibbled at the bread, and for a moment, Kofi felt a quiet connection, a reminder that even in the vastness of loneliness, kindness could still be seen. From the crowd, a shadow moved. Silently, a figure in a hood, face hidden beneath dark cloth, watched Kofi with careful eyes. The stranger saw the boy's determination, his courage in the face of rejection, and the small act of giving to another being, even when he himself had almost nothing. Something shifted in the observer's chest, a recognition that greatness often hid in humble, unseen moments. Kofi continued his journey through the market, feet aching, heart heavy. The vendors' voices rose and fell like waves, each one brushing past him without notice. A group of children laughed as they ran past, one tripping over a loose stone. Kofi's instinct was to reach out, but he hesitated. Still, he stayed close, watching, feeling the invisible thread of his own small presence tethered to the world around him taut by mid-morning. His coins were almost gone, and the market seemed to grow larger, louder, and more unkind. Hunger gnawed at him, and tears pricked his eyes. "Why does it always have to be this way?" he whispered to himself, voice barely audible above the market's roar. He sank down against the side of a stall, pulling his knees to his chest, and closed his eyes, imagining his mother's gentle voice guiding him, reminding him of courage. A sudden cry broke the monotony. A little girl had dropped a basket of fruit, the bright oranges rolling across the dusty ground. The vendor shouted in anger, waving his hands, ready to scold the child. Without thinking, Kofi scrambled forward, gathering the scattered fruit into his small hands and handing them back. "Here," he said quietly, cheeks flushed. "Don't worry." The girl's mother knelt beside him, surprised. "Thank you, young man," she said, her voice gentle now. The moment felt like a sunbeam breaking through clouds, and Kofi felt a flicker of pride, a whisper of belonging. The hooded figure watched, hidden yet closer now, drawn to the quiet courage in Kofi's heart. They saw a boy who, despite the harshness of the world, did not harden his heart. Instead, he offered what little he had. The observer felt a pull, a silent promise forming in their mind to intervene, to reward the boy's unseen nobility. By noon, the market had grown hotter, the sun beating down on wooden stalls and dusty paths. Kofi's stomach rumbled, and the last coins felt impossibly small. He wandered to the edge of the market, desolate, when a hand touched his shoulder. He turned, startled, to see the hooded figure now standing before him. A voice, calm and kind, spoke. "I've been watching you, boy." Kofi's eyes widened. "Me?" he asked, disbelief painting his face. The figure nodded, reaching into a pouch and pulling out a loaf of bread, still warm. "You have a heart stronger than most," the figure said softly. "Kindness is courage, and courage is rare." Kofi's lips trembled as he accepted the bread, the warmth seeping into his chilled fingers. He bit into it, savoring each morsel, but it was the words that filled him most, the recognition of his unseen strength. The stranger's face remained hidden beneath the hood, but the eyes, held a gentle light, a promise that goodness, even small and unnoticed, would not go unrewarded. Kofi felt a surge of hope, a feeling that perhaps the world was not entirely cold, that perhaps he too had a place in it. Before departing, the figure knelt and whispered, "Remember, little one, even when the crowd ignores you, your acts of kindness ripple further than you can see." Then, as silently as they had appeared, the stranger disappeared into the market throng, leaving Kofi with bread in his hands and fire in his heart. Kofi returned to his post beside the cracked wooden stall, the market now a little less intimidating, a little more alive. He noticed the small dog curled nearby, the same one he had fed earlier, wagging its tail as if to say, "You are not alone." The boy smiled, a genuine smile this time, and felt a newfound sense of courage. Each step he took, each small act of care, now carried a quiet strength, a truth that even the smallest among us could shape the world with kindness. That evening, as Kofi walked home with his bag lighter, but his heart fuller, he glanced back at the market, its chaos no longer frightening. He whispered to himself, "Even when I am unseen, I am not powerless." And in the shadows, among the bustling crowd, eyes that had watched him all day now smiled quietly, knowing a spark had been lit that could grow into something remarkable. In the heart of a world too often loud and hurried, the smallest gestures carried the deepest strength. Kofi learned that even the simplest acts of compassion, sharing a piece of bread, helping a fallen child, loving without expectation, could illuminate the darkest corners of life. The market hummed with life, but Kofi barely noticed. His small eyes scanned the crowded alleys, still wary from the morning's rejections, when a shadow fell beside him. The hooded figure from earlier emerged from the crowd, silent as the wind. Through the stalls, "Kofi," the figure whispered, voice low and urgent. "Something is hidden here, an amulet, stolen and secret, right among these traders. You must be careful." Kofi leaned closer, curiosity prickling his chest. He nodded, trying to absorb every word, every glance of the stranger's keen eyes. But in that instant, a sudden weight tugged at his faded cloth bag. He froze, then turned to see three older boys sprinting away, their hands clutching his bag. Panic surged through him like a fire. His mother's last gift, the coins that had meant his survival, and the tiny pendant resting inside gone in a heartbeat. "No, stop!" Kofi shouted, his voice swallowed by the clamor of the market. His small feet pounded the dusty ground as he chased them, weaving through startled shoppers and overturned baskets of fruit. Oranges rolled underfoot, goats brayed, and the boy's laughter was cruel, mocking, echoing through the alleys. Kofi's heart raced, each step a desperate prayer. The thieves disappeared into a crowded square, their shadows melting into the throng. Kofi skidded to a halt, chest heaving, tears blurring his vision. He fell to his knees, hands trembling as he looked around. Everything seemed impossibly large, impossibly fast. The coins, the pendant, the bag, they were gone, and with them, the fragile sense of safety he had clung to. He pressed his forehead to the ground, the weight of hopelessness pressing down like a stone. And then, as if drawn from the wind itself, the hooded figure appeared again. Kofi barely had time to blink before a shadow moved toward the boys. Hands outstretched, and a low, commanding voice whispered in the air. The thieves froze, startled, their fingers loosening on the stolen bag. In a blur, the bag tumbled to the ground. Kofi lunged forward, clutching it as if it were his lifeline. Tears streamed down his cheeks, both from relief and the lingering fear that had nearly crushed him. "It's mine," he whispered, voice trembling. The hooded figure stepped back, eyes gleaming beneath the shadow of the hood, an almost magical reassurance radiating from them. Kofi felt hope stir, fragile but alive, as though he had been given a second chance at courage. "Thank you," he whispered, voice barely audible. I thought it was gone forever." The stranger only nodded, silent, their presence alone enough to fill the space with quiet strength. Kofi took a moment to steady his breath, hands gripping the bag as if it contained more than coins and a pendant. It held memories, love, and a sliver of their mother's spirit. The boys, now realizing their prize had slipped away, vanished into the edges of the crowd, leaving only the chaos of the market behind. Kofi stood, trembling, eyes wide as he took in the vivid stalls, the merchants shouting, and the children running past. The world seemed a little less threatening now, though the fear had not entirely faded. Yet the stranger's silent promise lingered. Courage, even in fear, could invite help from unexpected sources. Kofi sat on the edge of a stall, fingers brushing over the amulet tucked safely in his bag. He remembered his mother's hands, gentle and warm, placing it there. "Always protect what matters, even if the world turns its back on you," she had said. And now, holding it close, Kofi understood that the lesson went deeper sometimes. Even when the world seemed cruel and indifferent, bravery and persistence could shine like a hidden light, unseen but powerful. The hooded figure lingered for a moment, and slowly merged with the throng, leaving Kofi alone once more. But this time, he felt different. His heartbeat, though still fast, carried a rhythm of determination. Each step he took through the market was quieter, more measured, as if he had learned to walk not just with his feet, but with his courage. Kofi's eyes fell upon a small dog, the same one he had fed earlier. The dog's tail wagged, tiny feet pattering toward him, and Kofi smiled. Even the smallest creatures could witness and reward kindness, even without words. He reached down, offering a gentle pat. The dog leaned into him, understanding in its quiet presence that even in moments of fear and despair, there could be connection done. As the sun climbed higher, golden light spilling across clay roofs and colorful fabric stalls, Kofi felt the weight in his chest lighten. His bag was safe, the coins and pendant intact, and within him, a quiet fire of courage burned brighter. The market, once overwhelming and cruel, now felt like a place where bravery and persistence could, if only rarely, meet with justice. He thought again of the stranger, their face hidden, but their presence unforgettable. "Who are you?" Kofi whispered to the wind. No answer came, only the sound of the bustling market. And yet, he felt a warmth, a reassurance, that sometimes the world sends help in forms you cannot predict. Sometimes the universe rewards those who do not give up, even when fear threatens to crush them. Kofi rose, adjusted the bag on his shoulder, and took a careful step forward. Each movement felt intentional, grounded, and alive. He knew now that, even when danger loomed, even when the world seemed indifferent, courage could carry him through. He had chased his fear, faced it, and found that help sometimes arrives like a shadow in the crowd, unexpected, silent, and magical dot. By the time Kofi left the square, the market's colors and chaos had become a part of him. No longer something to fear, but a reminder of what he had endured. He whispered to himself, "Even when I am small, I am not powerless." And in the echo of his own words, he felt a new understanding settle in his heart. Bravery, persistence, and a little faith could turn despair into hope. The hooded figure was gone, but their lesson remained, shimmering in the warmth of the afternoon sun. Kofi knew he would never forget it. That day, he had learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. And sometimes, the smallest acts of bravery could summon help from the most unlikely of places. The sun dipped low over the village, painting the sky in molten gold and amber. Kofi followed the hooded stranger through winding paths beyond the market, past familiar clay huts and dusty roads, into a part of the village he had never seen. The air shifted as they moved, carrying a scent of wildflowers and something sweet, almost magical. His small feet barely touched the soft grass, and a sense of wonder fluttered in his chest. Timid yet insistent thought at last they arrived at a hidden garden tucked between ancient trees and flowering vines. Rivers glimmered like molten silver, winding through the lush greenery. Birds sang softly, their melodies weaving through the quiet like a blessing. Kofi's eyes widened, mouth slightly parted as he took in the scene. He had never imagined such beauty, so alive, so serene, as if the world beyond the market's chaos held secrets meant only for the patient and the brave. The stranger stopped at the edge of a sparkling pond and finally removed the hood. Beneath it was not a stranger at all, but a wise elder of the village, long thought to have vanished. Wrinkles traced the elder's face like carved rivers, eyes twinkling with a warmth that belied the weight of years. Kofi felt a shiver of awe, bowing slightly in respect without knowing why. "You have been courageous today, Kofi," the elder said, voice gentle, carrying both authority and kindness. "Not all can stand in the face of fear and loss, and yet you have." Kofi's heart thumped. He held the pendant around his neck, small and unassuming, as though it had been waiting for this moment. Why me?" he whispered. The elder's eyes softened. "Because of your mother, and because courage flows through the blood of those who love without condition. Your mother saved my life long ago, and in her gratitude, she left a blessing within this pendant. It is not mere ornament, it carries insight and protection. It carries a piece of her heart, a memory, and a gift meant for you alone." Kofi's fingers trembled as he touched the small pendant, light catching the golden edges. He felt warmth seep into his chest, a gentle pulse that seemed to echo his mother's voice. "A gift for me?" he asked, awestruck. "Yes," the elder said, smiling. "But more than a gift, it is a reminder. Courage, mercy, and hope are not just words. They are actions. And they are the treasures that will guide you when the world seems dark." The boy's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but of wonder. He knelt by the pond, watching the rippling reflection of the elder's face and the golden light that danced across the water. Every lesson his mother had tried to teach him now felt alive, tangible, as though the universe itself had conspired to reveal them at the right moment. "You see, Kofi," the elder continued, "true strength is often hidden, just as the amulet holds power unseen. Your acts of kindness, your bravery and fear, carry a force far greater than any sword or coin. The world will test you, yet these tests are not punishments. They are invitations to grow, to shine, to discover what is already within you." Kofi listened, captivated, feeling a quiet flame of purpose kindle in his chest. The lonely mornings at the market, the stolen bag, the harsh words, they were no longer just pain. They were lessons, shaping him into someone who could meet the world with courage and grace. He felt his fears melt, replaced by a light he had never known, a sense that he was not merely surviving, but meant to thrive. "Will I understand how to use it?" he asked, fingers tightening around the pendant. The elder chuckled softly. "Not yet. The amulet reveals its power to those who listen with their hearts. Watch, wait, and act when the moment calls. Trust in what is unseen and trust in yourself. Kofi raised his eyes, gazing at the elder and then at the sparkling garden. Rivers reflecting the dying sunlight, flowers bowing gently in the evening breeze. The world felt larger, more mysterious, more full of possibility than he had ever imagined. He realized that his mother's love had never truly left him. It had been woven into the very fabric of his being, waiting for him to recognize it. "You have a gift, Kofi," the elder said, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "But gifts are meaningless without the courage to use them. Remember this. Every act of kindness, every choice to stand when it is easier to flee, every whisper of mercy is a treasure the world cannot take from you." Kofi felt the weight of the pendant, and the warmth of the elder's words settled deep in his chest. He stood taller, inhaling the heady scent of flowers and the sweet song of unseen birds. A new light had taken root within him, quiet but steadfast, the kind that could illuminate even the darkest paths ahead. As the sun sank lower, spilling golden streaks across the garden, Kofi looked back toward the village he had once feared, now a place of possibility and challenge. The hooded figure, the elder, had shown him that treasures are not always gold or silver, but the love, wisdom, and courage passed down through generations. He understood that the amulet was not just protection. It was a guide, a symbol of his mother's enduring love, and a call to live with bravery and compassion. Kofi whispered to himself, a smile tugging at his lips, "I will not waste this gift. I will honor her, and I will be brave." The elder nodded, a gentle, knowing smile, before turning toward the garden's edge, fading into the shimmering light as if part of the magic itself. Kofi remained, hands pressed to the pendant, heart filled with awe and hope. And in that quiet golden evening, Kofi realized that life's greatest treasures are not always seen. They are felt, remembered, and lived. Courage, love, and kindness are the true magic, hidden within acts of devotion and memory, waiting for the moment to be discovered. The sun rose gently over the village, spilling warm light across clay rooftops and bustling alleys. Kofi stepped into the market, not as the timid boy who had wandered its stalls the day before, but with a quiet strength that seemed to make the air itself shift. The pendant around his neck caught the morning sun, glinting faintly, a reminder of the elder's words and his mother's enduring love. The market was alive as ever, merchants shouting prices, children running past with baskets of fruit, the scent of roasted maize drifting through the air. But Kofi moved differently now. He noticed the small details, the elderly merchant struggling with a basket teetering on the edge of a stall, a group of lost children wandering too far from their parents. And where once he might have turned away, he stepped forward with gentle hands. He steadied the merchant's basket before it toppled. "Here, let me help," he said softly. The old man looked at him, surprise flickering across his face. Then a smile warmed his weathered features. "Bless you, young one," he said, gratitude shining in his eyes. Kofi nodded, feeling a rush of pride and purpose swell inside him. A cry drew his attention. A small boy had strayed into the middle of the crowded path, frightened and unsure. Kofi guided him back to his mother, taking care to hold the child's hand gently. "You're safe now," he whispered. The mother's eyes filled with tears as she embraced her son. Kofi's chest tightened, not with fear, but with the quiet joy of being able to help, of making a difference in someone's day. He walked on, noticing a hungry child sitting alone by the edge of a stall, eyes wide and empty with longing. Kofi reached into his small bag and offered the child a few coins, enough for a piece of bread. "For you," he said. The child's eyes lit up, and a smile, small but bright, spread across his face. Kofi felt a warmth in return, a simple truth taking root. Even small acts of kindness can ripple further than we imagine. By midday, whispers had begun to spread. "That boy, he's helping everyone," one merchant said, shaking his head in wonder. "I saw him guide those children." Another added. Soon, the tale of Kofi's courage and compassion reached the ears of the village council. The boy who had once been invisible, overlooked, and alone was now recognized for his deeds. The council summoned him to a quiet corner of the market. "Kofi," one elder said, voice steady and kind, "we have watched your actions. You have shown bravery, wisdom, and a heart of gold. We would like to offer you a place among the merchants' cooperative. You will not face hunger or struggle alone again." Kofi's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and joy flooding him. "Me?" he whispered. "Yes," the elder said. "You have earned it through courage, kindness, and the way you faced the world with honesty and care." Kofi felt the tears he had held back finally spill over. He clutched the small pendant around his neck, feeling his mother's presence with him, her guidance and love woven into every beat of his heart. I will honor her," he whispered, voice firm now, "and I will continue to do what is right." The council nodded, satisfied, and the boy's triumph was quietly sealed in the golden light of the afternoon sun. Returning to the market, Kofi moved through the alleys with a new grace. The children waved, the merchants smiled, and the very air seemed to hum with the recognition of his bravery. Where once the market had been a place of fear and rejection, it now felt alive with possibility, a canvas for kindness and courage. Kofi understood something profound. True triumph was not wealth or recognition, but the courage to remain kind, and just in a world that constantly tests the spirit. He helped another merchant recover spilled grains, guided an old woman to a shaded bench, and offered words of encouragement to a young girl struggling to carry a heavy basket. Each act seemed small, yet collectively, they wove a tapestry of goodwill that transformed the atmosphere of the market itself. People no longer saw Kofi as an orphan, timid and fragile. They saw a boy who embodied hope, strength, and the quiet magic of compassion. By evening, Kofi stood at the heart of the market, sunlight fading into the warm hues of twilight. He looked around, taking in the faces of the villagers, some smiling, some nodding in respect, and realized that he was no longer alone. His journey through fear, loss, and despair had led him here, to a place of purpose, recognition, and possibility. He lifted his chin, letting the last rays of the sun catch the edges of his pendant, feeling a sense of completeness he had never known. "I will never forget what I've learned," he murmured to himself, "and I will live in a way that honors those who came before me." The market, once a place of anxiety and invisibility, was now a stage for his courage and generosity. And as the stars began to twinkle above, Kofi understood a vital truth. Challenges are not barriers. They are opportunities to rise, to grow, and to discover the strength within. He walked home slowly, carrying the wisdom of the elder and the gratitude of the village in his heart. Each step was lighter than the last, each breath filled with hope. He had transformed despair into triumph, fear into courage, and loneliness into connection. The orphan who had once stood unnoticed among the shouts and chaos now radiated influence, kindness, and a quiet authority that came not from wealth, but from the heart. In that golden evening, as the village settled into peace, Kofi knew that life's true rewards are not coins or titles, but the courage to act with goodness, to stand tall in the face of hardship, and to allow love and wisdom to guide every choice. His journey had shown him that even the smallest acts of kindness can change the world, starting with a single heart brave enough to care.